Hi everyone, glad to be here. Super nice. All right, yeah. So then gonna kick it off. Thanks everyone. I just kind of sneaked in 15 minutes ago and got a glimpse of how you discussed. And so let me start sharing my screen, which is here. Perfect. Cool. All right. I'm going to take you on a small journey, which I did, in order to give you some background of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. To give you a little bit of background, we're a venture fund, just in fundraising. Things are moving in a really good direction. In some first venture fund, I never built a venture fund, but I think that's all right. You can start using new stuff. So I'm going to take you a little bit on my journey, and then walk you some of the theory behind how we plan to build Planet A. So basically, this is where I'm from, and now that's a shocking moment, which kind of is always a bit funny. So that next photo is kind of where we kind of started our first company when I was 16 years old. That was 1999, so quite a while ago. And so we did websites for other people, which at that time a lot of people were doing. And then we transformed it into, like, I don't know, fast forward, that was kind of from, I think, 2015 or so. So basically, we've produced a software that everybody can build and maintain their own website. And we've grown the company to quite a bit. And after 18 years of doing this, I got the chance to do something else, which I was super happy after 18 years of doing that. I took on a journey, and I was given the chance to do a 15-episode TV show together with DW, Deutsche Welle. And the idea was that German entrepreneurs traveling the world and seeing other entrepreneurs. And so why that was such a life-changing moment? So we actually thought, okay, we're going to take 10 out of the 17 UN Sustainable Goals as shells for each episode. And that meant a lot of traveling, which was super cool, seeing new places, doing new stuff, talking to awesome entrepreneurs over the world. That's in Mongolia, that's kind of in the space program in India, I don't know, in the forest in Malaysia. You get the idea. You've seen lots of things, but I wouldn't be here talking about that if I personally haven't seen so much of the problems. So by taking out on 10 of the 17 goals, whenever you want to present the solutions of founders around the world, you have to kind of showcase a problem, and this is what got me much harder than I actually thought. For example, this is an episode we did in Hong Kong, and we talked about the problem with living there. So since it's the highest cost of living in Hong Kong compared to other cities, it's lots of people live in these separated home or subdivided homes, so share flats with an awful lot of people. That's another thing. I was following this child for 3 days in Bangladesh and Dhaka, and seeing this everyday job, and actually only got in there because we went to school for an hour before going to a factory. And honestly, it changed your perspective on stuff quite a bit. That was Central India, and Delhi was in a lot of landfills. And probably we all know these problems, but I can honestly tell you it does something if you see it all firsthand and you're talking to all these people. It really does something to you. And that was probably my low point of this journey. So I talked to this farmer, and basically he explained to me that he was trying to commit suicide by drinking pesticides because he was so much in debt. And in Central India, there's this area which is called suicide belt, because you can statistically prove that the rate of suicides has gone up since the weather data has changed so much. And basically, also have seen lots of entrepreneurs which are tackling the problems and creating solutions for the people. For example, there kind of to lower the temperature when farming, and like creating solutions which are in line with the abilities of the people that are living there, and super nice approaches how to tackle that. Right. So some background. And basically, when I came back from this 120 days of filming, that was in the end of 2017, I rethought what should be done, or actually asked myself the question, what can I do? And it was a tough cookie, actually. But I mean, basically, from what I've heard just in the discussion from you guys before, it seems to you're thinking somehow in the same way. And that is actually how we decided, and now we're a group of 10 and raising the fund, how we think about this. And typically, this is part of our pitch deck we're using nowadays for fundraising. And typically, we talk about the context and these other sides to explain the context. But I shouldn't, I don't have to go through it again, because like you've seen my personal experience doing this. And basically, here's how we think about what's happening on the planet, and this is kind of for people that are relatively new to impact investment. And if you look at the examples, and you could have drawn other examples than the ones I've drawn from my journey, is like we're consuming much more than we have. So if you look at the right at the graphics. The green line is kind of this data from the footprint network, as seen below, and these are the people that kind of came up with the idea of the overshoot days. Like, what are the ability, or what is the ability of the Earth to regenerate and resources within a year? And so basically, everything below the green line would be kind of the prime definition of sustainable, and everything above that will be unsustainable. And at the minute, we're kind of using resources that if we would have 1.7 Earths, and spoiler ahead, we don't have that. And we've seen more and more efforts kind of to do something about the UN Sustainable Goals, then the Green New Deal, taxonomy in the EU, like lots of different initiatives, more and more people talking about impact, different products. But if you look at the numbers, really, it's like it's flattening a bit, but we're still using way too much. And future generations are becoming aware of this, and they know they're going to be the ones paying the price. And so intellectually, it's quite easy to say, okay, what we have to achieve, that we have to sorry, I've got a message. So we have to achieve an economy which is within the planetary boundaries, like, so to speak. We have to get below 1. This is what we have to do anyway. That's and changed environment will always create an atmosphere where some players and some companies will diminish and others will arise. And basically, building new companies always can only be part of the solution, but it's definitely one of the things that need to happen. And yeah. And so to speak, I've drawn this example before. Satya is one of the persons I've met on my journey, really inspiring person, and creating these greenhouses for the people in central India really gives them hope and an ability to earn their own bread. And that's another company in Hamburg. I mean, we are all in sustainable finance, and you probably have heard about that. These are actually friends of mine, and I've been on the board of Beirat of these. And this is a third example to see, hey, how big can this actually become? As a company, Beyond Meat, I think is a prime example, because substituting meat on that kind of scale, it's just really big and really makes a difference. And these are some examples of people who have built profitable businesses that are actually making a difference. And I also prime examples of people that I think leave the old definition of success behind, meaning maximum financial return at any cost. When I talk to these people, I much more get the impression that they think about their company as a tool to create change for planet and the profit. For planet and the people, and using the profits in this way. Unfortunately, I think giving the timeline on how fast we have to change and how fast we have to change our economy in itself, we have to move fast, and I think in that regard it is we have to act fast, and then therefore we have to create the right environment for the right people that are willing to push forward. And since I coming back from my journey in 2017, I have been in the space more and more. And the impression I get is there's still a lack of early stage capital support and professionalization in that. And this is exactly what we want to tackle. And this is the reason why we're building Planet A, to actually help these entrepreneurs to spearhead the necessary change. And I would love to kind of walk you to some of the main pillars we do have here. So as I said, we wanna support these companies in the early, like, seed stage, Series A stage, and so these are early startups, and basically we have to distinct. We have to distinct which companies are actually making a difference and which ones not so much. And in order to do this, we use a scientific approach, the way we have also set up the Planet A team, so that we have a strong scientist team in it, which is able kind of to do LCAs. LCA stands for life cycle assessments. And so we have the ability to kind of calculate the ecological footprint of products and services and compare today's world. And then we can see, hey, is this actually significantly better than today's world, yes or no? And we would only invest if that is significantly better. The second pillar on how we will operate Planet A is a strong network of serial entrepreneurs that have proven to be able to build successful companies, and also some scientists and experts which are leading in their field. I think this also comes from my realization that I'm pretty much a prototype of a privileged German, to be honest. And if you think about this, and then my journey has really helped me to kind of to see that if you're exposed to all these world's problems, it's like, okay, well, I have my fabulous life back there in Hamburg. But I think if you're so privileged, actually, it is also I think it's my duty to kind of do something about it and use that privilege to do something better. And this is also what enabled me to talk to other serial entrepreneurs and ask them the same question. And they also say, yeah, yes, I'm willing to contribute for these kind of companies. And the third one, which is normal to venture capital fund, we're raising 100 million in the fund itself, pretty much a standard vehicle, how we plan to set it up. So with 15 more minutes, and I would kind of like to guide you through our approach, how we think about impact forecasting, and maybe get some thoughts about it. Maybe I will be able to finish a little bit earlier, so I'm happy to take questions since we are in such a small group. Okay, impact forecaster. We actually call it impact forecaster because we're investing in early stage startups that will have the huge impact later if they're bigger. And I think we all know that the quality of financial data is really good at this time. So we are all used to making good decisions based on data. It's not so much the case for actually impact investment. So there's no golden rule. There's no standard framework how to evaluate them. And if we would have that, I think it would be easier to redirect and reroute some of the money into the world's biggest problems. So our approach with Planet A, how we think about impact. So we call ourselves Planet A. That's why. That's also because we think about the planet as the place we live, and we want to keep in a good shape. So we looked at what are the sustainable goals that actually correlate with the biosphere, and these are the ones you see in the 3 black boxes. So basically we only invest in startups if we see a significant improvement in one of the 3 boxes, which are climate change, so like greenhouse gas emissions, and then waste, like solutions that really actually make sure that less waste is created. And the third one is resource efficiency that also includes energy and water. And the way we as Planet A really think about impact is actually the product of two factors. And the left factor would be improvement rate. So this is kind of the scientific side of Planet A. As I briefly explained, we're doing these LCAs in order to evaluate if this is really making a really big difference, yes or no. And only if the difference is big, then we would invest. And the second one, yes, we are a normal investor. So the business perspective is super valid for us and super important. And we actually think about this as a multiplicator of the improvement itself. So basically, we're aiming for products which substitute products from today's world, which are not as good. And that's our approach. And to walk you through one example here with Wild Plastic, how we think about this. This is one startup I co-founded after I've done my journey, and it's pretty straightforward. So what we're doing with Wild Plastic is that we support plastic collection initiatives throughout the world, and by the use plastic. And so the reference case would be a virgin plastic bag, which is produced with new plastic. And so you compare the two, and it turns out actually, even though we kind of support, it turns out that even though we have to kind of ship the collected plastic from places like Haiti or Nigeria or somewhere else, and there are kind of additional emissions with this because you have to do the shipping, but it's not as a big factor as the CO2 production, or the connected CO2 production or emissions within the virgin plastic production, which is, to give you a sense, is like for 1 ton of plastic you produce, you're emitting about 6.5 tons of CO2. Where then, if you look at the kind of emissions from Haiti to Europe on a ship is kind of only 73 kilograms per ton you transport. So the learning here is it's much more important to have a weighted balance between all these different factors, instead of not instead. So yeah, and I think this data-driven approach to really think and dive down deep, what is the real impact of a product, enables you to make a solid decision on what are the products and the companies you really want to support. So I would leave it like that, basically. Well, yeah, and would say it really matters what startups we support, and basically I would say the economy we create shapes the only planet we have. And therefore, with Planet A, we want to support the ones which are making a measurable positive impact on the planet. All right, so that was the presentation. Maybe we can kind of transform into kind of a discussion. So I'm super happy to do that. If you would have questions, I can answer. Thanks a lot for listening.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, it was really inspiring for me. And yeah, like how you measure this KPI, that's super important, but also very super like pragmatic task, you know. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how that impact matrix develops. Okay, so in the floor, does anyone have any questions? You can give me a shout in the chat, so I can give you note for speaking. Anyone? Going one? Going two? If not, then maybe I will have a question.
Yeah, cool. Go ahead. I can also dive deeper in a certain area if someone wants to kind of know more or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Could you dive deeper more into the impact matrix?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Basically, the calculation of LCAs is our foundation, how to do it. And LCAs is pretty much a standard tool, but it really depends on how good you do the LCA calculation. So for us, the idea is, so first, how you do an LCA. So basically, LCA stands for life cycle assessment. So what you do is you look at the production of a product, then the use, and the end of life scenario. And so you really look into all, like basically you try to do an energy and mass balance for production and for use and for end of life. So you get really decent numbers to compare stuff. There's some tooling, or basically there's some data for LCAs for standardish things like truck transport or shipping transport. But in the case, for example, with wild plastic, you have some parts of a product life cycle where you don't have the data, and then you have to dig down and actually get the data from the factory and understand the process. And it's quite a costly process actually to do it. So you need, like, a normal person can't do it. You really need an LCA expert which has done this before in order to do this. And so that also means that the whole calculation in itself is normally quite costly. On the other side, for example, in the case of wild plastic, whenever you've done this and you can actually describe the impact of a product compared to today's world, I think you're much more credible than as if you would just tell a green story, because you have like a fundament or information and data being provided is like how you look in the world, and then you can discuss this proposal. But actually, you've done your homework and you can describe pretty much what the effect of this is. In the case of wild plastic, it has opened doors to big corporations being able to kind of substitute, for example, their packages when they send millions out of packages. And so now they actually we have just run a successful pilot with Otto, the shopping company, that they substitute their normal virgin plastic bags to wild plastic. And I think that's also due to the fact that we can really argue what's the impact of our product compared to today's world, and then it suddenly makes sense. And also customer gets it. So they have done research on this, and the people that are actually receiving the packages, they get it. And I think that's good. So my vote would be for, instead of just telling green stories, I think we all have to consider looking more into that kind of data to really see how much better it is an idea. And I would strongly recommend doing this, because you just get a better understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, but I'm these days reading a book about impact investing, and I'm also studying a little bit in the area. But the impact investment or value investment from the Warren Buffett's perspective is more focusing on the long-term investment, right? But in my understanding, Planet A Ventures is more focusing on the energy or climate change, those kind of sustainability goals focus, or is it also covering like a value investing perspective from 1970s?
Yeah, so we're relatively broad. So for us, the example is, or the criteria is, beside like normal, really good team and a good business plan, beside that, that is the impact side. And for us, really, it is about the three boxes I've just explained, like improvement in waste, energy, and greenhouse gas. So waste, resources, and therefore energy. So it can be all the way from food startups to energy ideas to kind of lab-grown meat. Like it can be a lot of different things. And maybe one additional thing I would like to mention is like, we definitely take a close look at the regulations that are coming into place, especially in Europe, because I think they're changing the boundaries for a lot of us. What is profitable business, and it's going to be profitable business in the future, because we look at these regulations actually as things which are helping our portfolio companies and are a good thing, because they're just changing the boundaries of the system, which have to be changed anyway. And I think young entrepreneurs starting now and building their companies in this particular mindset, they will have an advantage actually.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for answering. So one of my team is actually he's written a book about impact investing, and also he wrote some pieces on that. Ratan, can you hear me?
Oh yes, thanks for the intro, Yuri. Well, I did write a book on impact investing and how is the impact being reported. So the book was mostly about the gaps in the way impact reports are written by big impact investing companies such as Blue Orchard, Responsibility, and those kind of guys. So yeah, my particular question with impact investing, that's also one thing where like there are two problems. One is we have impact washing, which is getting very relevant these days in the industry as it grows. So how do you think it could be like kind of tackled? That's one. But secondly, also mostly what happens is that we kind of miss the side effects of a particular investment. Let's say like, I mean, I know of a specific company, like obviously an impact investing company that went into India, and then in some specific villages, they were engaging with the farmers. They were helping them produce bio milk, and were helping them export it to the Middle East, which is a good thing. I mean, end of the day, the farmers are better off than before, no doubt. But the problem is that the milk became pretty expensive, that the local population is not able to consume it. So all the produce is now being exported. I think we have a similar problem in South America as well, with quinoa specifically. So there were a lot of companies showing interest there, and then so what happened was, I mean, okay, how do you assess the impact? Like one thing is if it's really a metric of are the farmers making more money than before? Sure, I mean the farmers in South America for sure are making somehow more money than before today, but that still like we have to factor in the the aspect that most of the local population now are kind of finding it unaffordable to consume the same commodity which they were just consuming for ages. And the next thing is also the extensive land use. Like, I mean, end of the day, impact investing is very close to PE, right? You also need to have the same amount of like numbers, returns, and as with any business, growth is it's just never ending. So we just have to keep growing. And then yeah, so like then you have the side effects of the impact investing venture. So yeah, how do you think it could be tackled? Like,
I mean, the first one is easier to answer than the second one. I think for us, it's having a scientific team and making our impact on investment hypothesis public, and then reporting the numbers publicly to say, hey, this is how we think about this particular investment, and then and I think in general, like having this LCA approach helps a lot to kind of display how you think about a certain case. So in that regard, I think in general, like lots of people try to argument their solutions with only a part of the argumentation. Like there's some part which is good about some product, and you don't look at it holistically. And I think this is what needs to be done in order to be able to compare really what is being done. Today we pretty much live often in a world where it's really a lot about storytelling, and that you kind of you take some bits and pieces that are positive, and you don't do the net balance of something where you say, hey, this is a positive, this is negative, and actually you have to look at it holistically from the outside. I think it's a problem, and I don't have a specific solution. It's like for us, we try to do it better, and this is kind of what we're pushing for. And I think there will come more people that will do more groundwork to be able to compare more stuff. And the second example, to be fair, is like I've not much knowledge in the particular case you just described, and basically you would need to look into it and make like so it's everything is interdependent, and you do certain stuff, and if it heads off in a completely different direction, which is then not so good for, or negative, then you should not be able to continue what you have started. But it's really tough. Like, it's really tough to answer the question. I think you would need to dig down deeper and then think about how we can do it. And also, I think it's a case for regulations that, yeah, honestly, it's tough. I know it's not a really good answer, but I do see the same problems as you described. And I think you have to dig down into every particular case.